Let's welcome our founders, guys. We've got Nihat, we've got Cengiz with us today. Gentlemen,
Welcome,
Hey
guys.
guys, how are
Glad
you?
to be
thanks
here,
for
guys.
being here.
Welcome. How's everything?
Good. Last time I had some internet problems, so
Excellent.
I'm not gonna have
Oh,
any.
you guys are looking nice,
Excellent.
nice, sharp and crisp today. I don't think
Yes.
we're gonna have any internet problems. Hopefully
Yeah.
not. How's everything? And Nihat, obviously we got to compliment the nice attire that you got going on. I think somebody was
Yeah,
asking for a
let
suit,
me.
but
you
they
put
actually got a better one right there.
Nice.
The Dexter
Look at
shows
that.
better.
Yeah.
Flag.
Actually, it is that time of the year where I should probably break out mine and start wearing it now that it's a little bit cold.
Guys, what's
Well,
going
I'm
on?
trying to
Marketing
get
team
the
needs our
focus
shirts.
from here to there, actually, right? So that's the whole purpose.
Well,
Right.
have you guys seen the big hats on Twitter? Have you seen the giant hats? Chad, have you
No.
guys seen the giant hats?
No, I haven't
No.
actually. No.
Okay, we're gonna well, maybe soon enough you will see. Maybe
Too
Dexter
busy
will get a giant
coding
hat.
and building and all this stuff. Like we don't have time really.
Right.
I
There's
would
no
really
Twittering
like-
around here, man.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a Dexalot account, nobody else.
Even that, I'm not following that much. I mean, it's a shame actually. Sometimes
Well-
I feel like I'm too cut off.
No, because you guys are busy with the subnet. We know how much work is going into that. And that's what we're here to talk about today. I mean, we can talk about big
Yeah.
hats and baking pies any old time. We are here for the subnet special part 2. So I'm going to shut up and give the floor over to Firestorm and our founders, Cengiz and Nihat. Welcome, guys.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
as always, it's a pleasure. I think our community appreciates this kind of an interaction the most because they
Absolutely.
get to see you. They get to see the state of you, I'm going to say, and then they get to hear real alpha, just to remind the audience. Last time we did this, the alpha that came out was completely unplanned,
Yes.
and it was like beyond what we had on the roadmap. So if you're actually here today, you may get lucky. Again, we'll see.
Yeah, we will try to be a little bit more disciplined this time. actually.
Yes, of course, because we practice this, so much behind the. No, I'm just kidding. But
At the moment, you never know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. We don't know where the conversations lead to, and all of our conversations with our guests are always awesome. With you guys, I'm sure it will be even more special. So, just to do a quick recap for our audience, do you mind just giving a much quicker version of who you guys are, how you came to be where you are? I think we have new faces among the audience as well. I think it would be valuable for them to hear that real quick.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead first?
Sure. So I'm coming from engineering background. I'm a chemical engineer by trade. I used to work in the oil and gas industry. And then with the COVID, I've been meaning to find something new actually to get into, right? So, and the COVID ended up giving me the perfect reason or excuse to change the profession completely. Right? So I left the oil and gas completely behind and entered the unique world of crypto. Actually, I didn't realize how satisfying it could have been. So I'm really glad I did.
Absolutely. And we're really glad you did too, because you're the reason we're all here. You guys are the reason we're all here.
Thanks for joining the journey.
Yeah. Well, I went through the same thing. So it's really cool because, the COVID pandemic was what made me take a look at my career too and kind of switch things around. So yeah, it's kind of the name of the game over here.
What was it called? The Great Switch or the Great Resignation? Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always fascinated with like programming, technology, and some sort of shared purpose, basically, right? So and crypto has this combination of unique things that brings the community for a shared purpose and has a lot of good technology in it. And somehow my background fits in it somehow that I felt like I could make a difference, right? At that point, I reached out to my long-term friend, Cengiz. He has a much better fitting background than me, actually, right? So he worked in the trading business in Wall Street like for 20 years, right? So, and at that time, I really didn't have the notion like let's get together and build this one thing led to the other and just evolved to Dexalot actually. So not interestingly, not everything was really planned, but it turned out to be really good. I'll let
you like that was I call it sometimes a stupid project, but it was an introduction. Like, you know, we created a node, Avalanche node, and we made a front end for it. So it's like the front end part is stupid, not the node part. Maybe we're just like, yeah, why not? Let's do a front end. It's like nobody does that, but let's do it. So that was our introduction. So yeah, like Nihat said, I worked in Wall Street for 20 years, building electronic trading systems in various asset classes, FX, equities, options. I held also, I had my own trading book in statistical arbitrage trading for a while, right after the crash of 2008. So I know the technology side as well as the business side quite well. And in that sense, crypto trading is just another asset class. But of course, the technology behind the blockchain was very fascinating. And a little difference in my situation, I left Wall Street before COVID. Mine was even before that. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to do slave for a corporation, and I'm going to do my own thing. And I had different projects back then. They didn't pan out. I had some small clients here and there, built some applications, and it was fulfilling, but it never really went big scale like Dexalot. And yeah, and then we stumbled upon this opportunity, and here we go. Here we are.
Here we all are. Subnet special. Yeah, and one of the things. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Firestorm.
No, please go ahead. I'm going to crack a joke.
Well, what I was going to say is,
then I'm going to ask something.
Well, I'm ready for it. But what I was going to say is the thing that always stuck out to me is that some of the best partnerships are ones that are also built on like an established friendship. At least coming from music, that's been my experience. So that's what always stuck out to me about Dexalot is that like you guys actually have a friendship foundation before the business, and that just brings like such a different level to things. So this is like oh, sorry, what? Oh, sorry, I thought somebody said something.
I'm just agreeing to.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's been my experience, and it's just like it makes Dexalot that much more fulfilling because it does have we do have that friend thing going for us. You know what I mean? So anyway, Firestorm had a good dad joke.
That's a great point actually, because at the end of the day, I trust Nihat with my life. That's the bottom line. So
exactly, no
matter what happens, we might fight, we might just get into each other's throats for some other reasons, whatever. But at the end of the day, I know that it's just gonna be okay one way or another.
Right.
And I'm sure he feels the same way. If you don't tell me.
100%, dude. Come on. Yeah. I think just to complement what Cengiz is saying, a lot of people actually warned us. I don't know if Cengiz directly you but I got warned saying, don't work with Cengiz. No, it's not that obvious. No, it's basically when close friends get together and build a business, somehow friendship gets in the way and things pan out badly, right? So it's I have heard these things, and some people directly warn us about. But the relationship needs to be at a certain maturity level, I think, for this not to happen. I mean, we can literally say to each other the way we think. It's just, and the counterparty knows that it's genuine and then start thinking, oh, maybe I did something wrong here, or oh, this is a good angle. Oh, I mean, typically I'm not a very open person to criticism, so my immediate reaction is not to accept it. But James knows that it drops the bomb and then waits, for example, and then I come around, right? So it's just knowing each other so well that somehow you figure out how to work with the other person and trust the person. Actually, that's the most important part.
It's huge. It's a huge element. So I think it's,
I was just gonna say, longtime friends is a good thing, because that also means a lot of experience, right? Between the two guys that you see on the screen, there's a few decades worth of experience, and when you add our COO Tim Shan, he adds another 200 years worth of experience on top, I think. Which makes us positioned well, to say the least. But jokes aside,
ruthless
going to what
ruthless.
Jokes aside, going back to what Nihat said about shared purpose, I think that shared purpose, specifically with Dexalot, cannot be more important than today, right? Dexalot is a non-custodial exchange. There is a reason why this team has chased that vision, and look where we are now, right? I'm not gonna bash stuff that happened recently. I think everybody has done that enough. But there is a reason why we believe that this technology that the exchange sat on is important, and it allowed this type of an exchange for people to use. So I just wanted to emphasize that as well. I think that it was aptly said, my good friend. Let's talk a little bit about subnet, if you guys are up to it. I know you two specifically, with the rest of the team, have been way down in the lowest possible levels of understanding how subnets work and actually implementing a very unique one. And I kind of want to talk about the non-obvious problems, right? Obviously, if I was a degen, right? If I'm a guy sitting on the sidelines and looking at projects, the concept of subnet is pretty awesome, right? Application-specific chain on potentially the most novel blockchain. But when you come down to implementing a subnet that's specific to an application, I am 100% sure, and I already see Cengiz smiling, that there were a lot of non-obvious gotchas or nuances, right? I think it would be super awesome for our audience to hear about some of those challenges you had and how you went about solving them. And maybe we should start with the quick architecture of what it looks like, and then I'll sort of give the floor to you guys to talk about, what did you come across that you didn't expect, and how you had to solve those problems.
Sure. The quick architecture that you want us to give the architecture?
Or I can do it. I mean, up to you guys. I mean, you guys are the architects. I am not. So I've done it before. I think it's much better if people hear from you guys. If people are sick of hearing me, I feel like
the builders.
It's
you hear from the builders.
Yeah.
Well, quick architecture. So I mean, you said it so many times, but let's repeat on the sense that we lock the assets when you deposit in the mainnet, so that mainnet can and will be at one point not just Avalanche, but maybe another blockchain, and we will send a message from that mainnet to the subnet stating what the holdings of that particular trader is, and then it's like a credit that for that trader to trade in the subnet, and when they're ready to withdraw their money, the message goes back to the originating mainnet, and it's withdrawn and unlocked from that place and returned to the user's wallet directly. So this is the very high level how it works. All the expensive operations, obviously, like sending a bunch of orders, canceling them, sending these expensive operations, like specifically for market makers and for users who are very active. If you're sending one or two orders once a month, it may not be that important to you, but for market makers, it's very important. Mm-hmm. So those are expensive operations that we're talking about. They're going to be a lot more cheaper, faster in the subnet. So that's the main reason why we wanted to get to the subnet. And in the very long run, when things are getting, when we want to expand to other products and potentially make things even more robust, we can even change our EVM to a custom EVM and start using some pre-compiles to embed the Solidity code take it out of the Solidity and put inside the EVM directly, so it is cost efficient and speed improved as well.
And it's a mechanism to also update, right? If there is new innovations through the pre-compiles, you could change stuff, right?
Sure.
Look, Firestorm, you mentioned the challenges basically, right? So the challenges we faced and the kind of decisions we made. So I think maybe just zoom out a little bit from what Cengiz mentioned. At the very top level, our original application, Dexalot, was a single chain application.
Right.
It was living in the Avalanche C chain, right? So from that perspective, it's not very too different than any other single chain application. You connect your wallet, you do your transaction, and go on with the rest of your life. So with subnet, you have to change that paradigm by its very definition of being subnet, basically, because you are an independent, different chain that you have to bring your liquidity in and out and transfer funds in and out, right? So that means you end up having an application that lives on two chains at the same time. So I think the fundamental difficulty from that perspective is the fact that you need to come up with a way for the traders transparently move their assets in and out and make it as intuitive as possible, basically, right? So, and everything we try to do in those architectural decisions is to kind of ease that transition and make it as transparent as possible to the user. And there are instances, no matter what you do, you cannot make it as a single chain application, basically, right? So because you have to accept the fact, then you end up bringing the community education into the picture and make sure that everybody understand how to dual chain application works.
So, like,
and I guess
challenge, if you want.
Oh, sorry. No, please.
One of the challenge that we had that we didn't expect. For example, you start to also manage an infrastructure of the nodes and managing literally a blockchain, right? So one day we're just trying to upgrade the nodes or something, and then all of a sudden this was like testing, obviously.
Sure.
We're upgrading our subnet nodes, and all of a sudden everything stops working. Everything stopped working. We're like, why? What's happening? What did I do wrong, right?
Right.
And then we realized, because we were not exposed to it back then, we realized that we only had like 4 nodes, and we shut down like 2 of them, upgrading to at the same time or something like that. Then we are told like, hey, you need to have at least 80% of the nodes alive, otherwise your subnet is gonna stop working. So
parameterized liveness requirement, right?
Yes, the liveness requirement. So it's like, oh, okay, so now we have to worry about these. Then that changed how many nodes we have to operate, how to upgrade, what are our upgrade procedures.
Sure.
All when we make them the validators, obviously we didn't set them to be validators for the same date expiry, so that we can roll in a nice fashion. So there are a lot of unknowns that comes up with technology, but it is good unknowns, and we give ourselves a lot of time to test it out properly and understand everything properly. So we don't, and we won't, hopefully, have surprises when we go in production in live mode.
I mean, like this is a great story, because I remember very early days of Avalanche, the way the nodes were staggered by the foundation were also in question. People were like questioning, why are there like time differences? What are you guys doing over there? And the answer was because like the network itself cannot ever have less than the appropriate liveness threshold.
Yeah.
For that reason, just to give an example, basically, on the production network, currently we are operating 10 nodes, and we put 1 day between each other, actually, the end times, just to make sure we don't mess it up like we did on the Fuji network, right? So we don't want to definitely get.
I mean, I would argue one day difference between nodes actually implies a pretty efficient operation. You know,
Totally.
I just want to point that out. One day, to most people, may seem long, but when it comes to these types of tech processes, it's not necessarily wrong. So, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. I guess the second thing that I personally early on struggled to, wrap my head around is I take a step back. Avalabs kind of operates like us as well, right? They release things when they feel really, they feel like they engineered it well and they tested it well, right? And, I know cross-subnet communication concept has been around a long time. Like as soon as people started talking about subnets, they also started talking about how we're going to communicate, between subnets. And obviously, by the time you guys started building the subnet, that wasn't available natively, and it's not available natively yet. Yeah. Hopefully soon. And I think that was one of the big challenges as well. How did you guys go about, figuring out how to do our own bridging? I guess, like what were the criteria? What were the things that you learned there? Because I know not that much about bridging, and I think it would be useful to see the journey that you guys went through.
Definitely. Yeah. So anytime there's bridging, obviously the first thing that everybody thinks about the cost of bridging and the time, how long it takes to bridge something, right? The cost of bridging, I know from the Ethereum to Avalanche, it cost like back then, I don't know, it was like at least $20-$30 worth. That's one time that I did that bridge function, and it was like right off the bat, it was like no way, nobody's gonna deposit on a regular bridge if you were to just take a third-party bridge and said, do this for us. Nobody's gonna put like the $30. Let's say like $5, because it is the amount of percent amount you get charged as a percent of the amount transferred, right? So that was first thing that we said, we're not gonna do an actual token bridging from mainnet to subnet. Instead, we're gonna fake it with a generic message. So, and that generic message is just if you could put anything in there. And I mentioned that from our previous fixed financial information exchange protocol. Right. It's like, when you invent something, actually, like, let me put that, we don't come up with something completely out of the blue, right? Inventions are like you get the ideas from other places, right, and you build upon them, and you just make it look like a little different. So we didn't invent necessarily something completely new, but we had a protocol in hand previously that we used, and which is fixed, and then key value pairs, which is a fix, like key value pairs, generic message, and what's other things in the exchange protocol? They have to be sequenced. You cannot miss any messages. They have to be delivered in sequence, and there can't be any message that is missing. So we, looked at the bridge providers, a few of them, and one of the things that we also thought about, because this message is generic, we can as well make it bridge agnostic, because it really doesn't matter who the provider is, as long as we can rely on those two things that we talked about, the sequence of messages and that there is no missed messages. So that's how it came about in general. Did I miss anything, Nihat? Do you remember anything?
No, that was perfect. Essentially, then we started evaluating different bridge providers. We even implemented pretty much as a test case 2 bridge providers. But then, it's no secret, we are defaulting to layer 0, and we are very happy with their technical support, as well as I think the maturity of the application itself. Sure. So we felt comfortable to go with them. But as Cengiz said, in the future, we are not bound to layer 0 or anyone else, basically. Right. Technically bridge agnostic, the way we built it.
Yeah, I think there are 2 things that I want to sort of extract and emphasize from that, from what you just described. Number 1, bridges are a great business, right? Imagine giving up a percentage of the assets that you're bridging between chains every time. And that, we sort of try to create really high value for our subnet by making sure those transaction fees is as little as possible, right? And generic messages are awesome, in my opinion. And the second thing I kind of want to highlight to our audience and just crypto people in general, like, over the however many cycles we've endured in Web3, right? I lost count of how many cycles. What I've mostly observed up until this cycle, I would say, is that people were either pro crypto or against crypto, right?
Right.
And like crypto people would say, crypto does it differently. Everything needs to be different. Then TradFi people say, oh no, whatever, crypto, that fake money internet thing, we don't care about it. In reality, there is like a nice sweet spot in the middle, right? There are shared problems, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Of course, you can build upon it, but fixed protocol is a perfect example. Well-established, well-understood communication protocol for trading, right? And taking the main principles from it to implement, asset transfers or communication between, applications and exchange. Amazing, right? People already solved it. When you show it to a TradFi guy, they'll get it. When you show it to a crypto guy, because it's well standardized and well established, they'll get it, right? And it's like a nice middle ground between taking some alpha from TradFi and applying some special magic from Web3 on top of it. I kind of want to, emphasize that, right? Because there's a lot of projects out there that are saying, no, we'll only do everything in a crypto way.
Right.
I kind of look at those guys as maxis, and maxis eventually sort of disappear, right? Yeah.
The one thing I would like to add, Firestorm, in TradFi, the focus is on the finance, right? I mean, in the end, it's the movement of money, exchange of money, or whatever. It's the money activity. I think in the crypto, the technology, the very foundational technology is much bigger than that. It's not just finance. I think it's allowing us to create communities, and it allows us to manage these communities in a different way, transparent way. I think it's a lot more revolutionary than TradFi people give credit to, because
Absolutely.
it's so much more than just currency itself. Actually, it's just one feature of cryptocurrency that does a lot better than TradFi, because it's cutting the middleman out of the picture, and probably that's why they are threatened so much. But it has so much more to offer, actually, in the coming decades, I believe.
I think that's a very nice take. Now that you said it, I just realized that TradFi people most of the time focus on exchange of value and the price, right? Oh, it's such a volatile thing. It's never going to work. I can't buy my bread with it, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, like money or exchange of value for goods and services is just the initial application of Web3 or crypto, whatever you want to call it, right? Exactly. The real underlying innovation, which came with Ethereum, is the ability to transact in a trustless, transparent, and in our case, non-custodial way. That's the true innovation, and it's a fabric level innovation. It's not a financial level innovation. Financial stuff sits on top of that fabric, but it really is the cutting of the middleman and simplifying the settlements or simplifying the transactions themselves, which, again, once you sort of get to the understanding of that, you end up building something like Dexalot, right? Which I think is pretty cool.
That was bars, Firestorm. That was great.
No, I mean, again, like these guys, because of the way they sort of describe these things, like things click. Yeah.
Yes.
Which helps me.
And let me just jump in really quick. Chat, if you guys have any questions for our founders, please just drop your questions in the chat. And Firestorm, please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Now, Alpha. We vertically cornered ourselves into the Alpha corner, and
I'm not missing a word.
I'm gonna like mute myself and mute my camera and wait for the Alpha, gentlemen.
I'm honestly in awe right now that you just called them out. You just said, "All right, drop the Alpha, guys, founders."
I don't know. Do we have Alpha?
Look at Firestorm.
I haven't seen anything ahead of it, but yeah.
We are doing the audit remediation currently, so we should be done very soon.
And if
that also means something in the lines of
If you can
you
reveal,
wanna say,
if you
Nihat?
can reveal, how did the audit come back? How messy was it? Messy at
Nothing
all?
major, really. I mean, in the end, we were. I mean, no matter what, it's like going. You prepare for a test and then you take it until you get it. You feel kind of, well, I did well, but
There's always a little bit of a but.
there's always
Why did I get 100? Why not 107? Because you could
So-
always write additional questions at the bottom and answer them yourself
Exactly.
for extra credit, right? Yeah, of course.
And something like that was still there. Maybe more with me than Cengiz. He wrote most of the code that actually ended up becoming the subnet, right? So therefore, he was more self-confident than me, maybe. But well, anyway, long story short, there were a few issues they found. Obviously, I mean, we were hoping that they would found, and nothing major, nothing that we can't fix or we need to make any architectural change or anything like that. Not even close, actually. So it doesn't change anything on our plans. We are hoping to finish by the end of this month, do our tests, and within the month of January, we would like to be online, basically, right? So that's the hope.
All
You
right.
guys heard it
Oh.
here first.
Should we
Is
just
that out enough? Does that
January
qualify for
1st,
enough?
1 minute past midnight. Folks, you guys
No,
heard the
I
fact.
wouldn't.
let's just say first half of January. First half of January, right? Like that's what we're targeting, right?
Sure.
Definitely not the second half if we can get everything ready. There are certain things that is not in our we can't control, right?
Right.
The infrastructure, the code, and everything, but there are third parties that we have to deal with. We want enough liquidity in our subnet when we go live. So market makers, everything should be ready so the DIP program can work properly. Yeah, in our last episode, we talked about 2 alphas, right? A DIP we talked about, and that's delivered. You guys are playing in, like we have the Trading Cup right now,
Right.
that you are seeing it in action. And we talked about giving the sample bot so you can write your own bot. So that's also published out. So yeah,
I guess
like in a month or 5 weeks, we will be in a different place.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Now, one thing I'll also add, right? People think sometimes because I don't write message. Well, actually, I don't know how much you guys write either, but like, you know, we're watching the telegrams, right? We're seeing what's happening there. I have been seeing the gentleman who's won the cup earlier, and look, even though the bot is available, you know, if you participate and just play it on your own, there right now there's a very good chance of, you know, ranking and potentially getting something, right? And again, it gives you a leg up in understanding what DIP is, because DIP, as you can imagine, is going to be turned on in mainnet, right? It's actually going to be available for, you know, the real market. And it also gives you a understanding of how the subnet works, so that you know all the things that you need to know to operate when, you know, the real sort of enablement comes, which, you know, Cengiz just committed to a extremely aggressive tight deadline.
I mean, one thing to note or highlight is whoever gets in early has a greater chance actually learning this.
Absolutely.
DIP.
Yeah.
That's the key.
I mean, there are strategies better than others, and this is the best time with less people involved in it, and learn it, and then use it to your advantage when it's continuing with the real application on the production.
And the other thing I'll say, right, like, you know, it's no secret that we're in a bear market. You know, this team is here, this team is building, you know, we're well capitalized, all that good stuff. But the number of people that are still in the ecosystem are a lot less, which means your voices have a much higher chance of being heard, right? Every piece of feedback is actually coming through to the team. And now, because the frequency of people asking about the price, asking about when are you going to give me the free blah, 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 disappeared, we're actually getting real feedback. So if you don't like something, if something doesn't work well for you, send it, right? Send it via Discord, Telegram, wherever that may be. We have really, really good community managers, and they'll pass it along, and this team will actually, implement it. As long as it is implementable, obviously.
Just really quick, speaking of our Discord, if you are using the sample bot, or you want to utilize the sample bot, our community managers Boogie and Zane and Brad McFall have all been sharing their findings when they've been using the sample bot on our Discord. So just hit us up on Discord, and if you have any questions, get involved in the conversation, and Brad and Boogie and Zane will be happy to help you guys out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Should I ask more stuff?
I mean, you
took a deep breath, so I feel like you had something to say. But
no, I'm still here for the alpha. I'm still I love that you just called it out, man.
I think the next thing probably we can highlight is the new UX and UI we are building in the background, right? So I think that's an important project. It has a lot of sub-components that is very, very, I think it's going to be appreciated by our community. It's some of the things that they were asking for a long time are going to be fulfilled. So,
awesome.
A very
what concrete
nice
things can you say?
Huh?
What concrete things can you share? Is there anything concrete that you can share?
I'll pass the ball to Cengiz.
On the UI UX?
Oh!
I am a server-side guy mostly. I can't handle visual.
No, I was just.
There are times.
That's a kind of eternal joke between us. So he doesn't really like front end.
Yeah. First we started, and Nihat will point out something in the front end. I was like, "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" It's like, "Don't you see, dude? Don't you see? This is like, this is wrong." I was like, "Oh, okay, if you say so." So I can't really see. I mean, maybe I see that there's something wrong, but I can't pinpoint what it's wrong and how it needs to be changed. So that's why it's pretty much driven that part by Nihat and Tim, because they are more visual. They pay more attention to those visual nice things, and I can't do that. So. But when I looked, it looked very beautiful.
The thing is,
So
once you
when I saw
go ahead, Nihat. Go ahead.
No. I mean, one key example I can give, a concrete example, is a lot of the users in our community were asking, for example, a better chart facility, right?
Sure.
So yeah, we are bringing one simple, the current existing one, an additional advanced full trading view, basically, type of charting facility that you can actually use for technical analysis.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I actually see a couple questions from our very own Zeki Muran. Doubling rewards for next DTC. No comment on that one. The interesting one here is Serum almost dead, good for Dexalot. Look, reality is this ecosystem is quite large, right? A well-known player that actually had a club model dying, not because they failed in terms of technology, but because, the guys who ultimately sort of funded them and, created them died, is not a good thing for the community, right?
Right.
Serum's success ultimately would have helped Dexalot, and its disappearance doesn't actually help Dexalot, because people are going to look at Serum and they're going to say, this was a fraud.
Yeah.
And I don't think Serum as a product was a problem, right? Like, the people behind it, the VC or the firm or whatever you want to call it, back them up, was the problem. And same story for Solana, right? It's a different type of approach to a layer 1 blockchain. It going away, on the surface looks like it's great for Avalanche, but if you look at the Avalabs guys themselves, they say, hey, we need to have more than just one player, right? When you have a monopoly, it's never a good thing. I mean, look at, cable companies, right?
Right.
Like I lived in many places where there was only one cable provider. Bro, you can't even get a human being on the phone to tell them that your like cable box is burning. Like,
Yes.
you know, we don't want that, right? And you know, like having competition makes you better, right?
I think for foreseeable future, we need to be in the mode where we can all work together how to grow the pie, honestly. I mean, across the different chains, across the different DApps, basically, right? We have to work together to make the pie bigger, and everybody will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fully agreed. And again, you know, the communities are still separate, right? The Solana community is separate, Avalanche community is separate. And I think we need to, you know, come up with applications that compete with each other where, you know, people have compelling reasons to look at both, right? So that's kind of my take. And it seems like it's echoed as well.
Zeke dropping another question. Any ideas for on-ramping crypto easier to dexes such as Dexalot? Currently, it is a bit difficult with bank, central exchange, MetaMask, similar wallet to a DEX.
Yeah. I mean, I'll let you guys answer it, then I'll give my view on
I mean, we recognize the difficulty.
Yeah.
No question about it, right? So it's, but handling something like that, like on-ramping, off-ramping, dealing with the fiat currency brings a lot of regulatory exposure that you have to deal with.
Sure.
And currently, we don't want to focus from our building into that, basically.
Totally.
That's the whole purpose. I mean, we cannot promise for the future we will do it or we will not do it, but it's a friction that we would like to alleviate in one way, basically, in the future. But
absolutely.
Currently, we don't want to lose our focus at least.
Yeah. I mean, look, like for global mass adoption, this problem needs to be solved, right? But
Absolutely.
This problem is not yet a Dexalot problem.
Yeah.
It's a systemic level problem for retail. Now, one thing I will tell you and highlight is businesses that don't serve retail customers like exchanges have a significantly easier way to on-ramp their assets, right? You know, there are service providers, and you know, even Tether is a service provider that makes this relatively easy. People are still redeeming or minting through Tether. You have the same thing through Circle, right? Like if you're a business, the workflows are significantly better. And the reason why people focus on businesses first is because that's where the initial money is. I think that whole process thing is going to become easier for retail as well once the regulatory sort of frameworks are available. And until that arrives, I think it's difficult. You know, you could very well have a future where the banks that you use today could be your on-ramps even, right? So, you know, don't count it out. But again, it's difficult for a team like Dexalot, who's sort of building the exchange. We have to make everything about the exchange beautiful and great and efficient first. Then, you know, bring on additional sort of audiences that are not necessarily in crypto. And by the way, there are some examples of people turning on ramps, on AMMs, etc. Like the traction that they got isn't that much. So even though this problem is there, I think the audience that would use these products today are already using it in some shape or form, and they've already passed that barrier of onboarding.
But I think what you said is correct, right? So for mass adoption, when we get there, I think this needs to be a lot less friction.
Sure.
Right. Okay.
There's a question that may require some alpha as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple more questions.
Let's go, guys. Let's go.
Drop those.
Let's go.
Like the GMX rush, with heavy, like high probability, yes, very high probability that we're talking to our labs. So as a part of the DIP program, we are hoping that we will get some rush funds in that. So,
I mean, look, if you think about what Avalabs is doing, their main and primary mission is to grow the ecosystem. So they're doing their best to help projects that bring some innovation and solutions to people GMX is obviously one of those products. Dexalot is another one. Dexalot is at the cusp of launching the first, DeFi subnet on Avalanche. And the simple answer is you can bet that a lot of people on this team are having continuous conversations with the good folks on Avalabs.
Definitely.
Obviously there's no guarantees, but hey, it may very well happen, my friend. So we'll see.
I love it.
We will see.
Yes, we definitely.
Are we gonna do? Are we gonna do PFP giveaways today?
We're not doing the wheel today. We're just this is the subnet special, guys. The wheel of PFPs will be back next week. If you're trying to spin the wheel, Shiny Cakes. If you're still in the chat, I know you were looking to spin the wheel. We're gonna. We might actually do that on Friday for the DeFi Disco. So we'll see. Cool. But I wanted to give the founders
the reason why I asked is, I kind of want to give, our founders the floor. And, is there anything that you guys want to mention?
Yes.
I know we're relatively short on time. I'd rather not ask a question, but leave it open to you guys. Is there anything that you think people need to hear or,
Cengiz had something in mind.
Yeah, I have something in mind. Like, what we find as we keep building and building, that we are building components that some projects, that's their business line specifically, but we are already building that as a part of our overall platform. Nihat and I, we were talking about that. Like, we have these token vesting contract that we can provide to investors, right? If they wanted to launch in Dexalot Discovery. So there are projects that are just doing that, and we have that as a side item. And similarly, the bridging. So it's like there are projects that they just do lock and mint type of thing in their, that's their business model. So I just wanted to mention that we are building so much and in so many different places that it's amazing at sometimes. It's like, just like you could have just picked up this small piece and just get some funding and just that's the project itself. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we might be a little slower than other projects at times, but the reason is because we are building a lot of things that's going to be very handy in the future. So literally the building blocks of a lot of things coming in online.
You got to let the chefs cook, guys. A delicious meal takes time. You know what I mean? That's
exactly.
Where we're at, chat.
A delicious cake or pie also takes a long time to bake.
Sometimes, depending.
You probably know.
You definitely have to taste that one day.
Well, we got to do the Dexalot potluck. We'll do it for the holidays. And the virtual potluck will make it happen. Guys, I have two quick questions before we let you go. My first one, and will you please come back when the subnet's ready to go?
I don't think that's a question for these guys. Right? These guys will show up when the community demands it. When we want to get some big brain time with them, right?
Well, that answers that.
Yep.
Well, I guess we'll have the founders back. So in case you missed it, I know Zeke said he wasn't here for the UI UX conversation. These guys are talking about the first half of January for subnet, guys. So just letting you know if you missed the conversation, the replay will be up right after the episode. The second thing I have to ask you though, you guys know I'm going to play some music to take us out. If I could get a song request from each of you. You don't have to tell me right now. Nihat, we talked about it. I think you might have one.
I'm prepared, man.
Nihat was ready. I was ready to go.
I've been working on this for the last, I think, 48 hours. So
Really?
Well, then I definitely have to play your request. What do you got for me?
California Dreaming, actually. That's one of my favorite songs. And a specific rendition of it, actually, Bobby Womack.
The Bobby Womack version. The truly vibed out version. Yes, that's the better version. So no offense to the mamas and the papas, you know what I mean? But Bobby Womack,
I recently kind of listening to the new rendition quite often.
Definitely, man. Nice. Well, we're gonna play it for you coming up. Cengiz, what about you? What do you got?
It's one of my favorites too, so that's great. That's good enough. Like let's go for it.
See, I was talking to Nihat earlier, and we were talking about how much James Brown I've been playing in the club here. So I think that's a win too. So maybe we'll do some of that.
Absolutely.
But guys, this was incredible. Like we always love having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to not only talk about the subnet architecture, but drop some like serious alpha. Chat, if you missed it, the replay will be up. But guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Firestorm. Thank you, Jimmy.
You're very, very welcome. We'll see you again soon.